Hey, and welcome to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with our robot model. So in the previous one we did take quite a long time doing our head, but we went through and did it a little bit, probably not the best way, but we got through it and did it. So now we're just going to do the torso, which should hopefully be a little bit quicker, and we'll do it in a different way. But yeah, hopefully you've been enjoying it so far. And yeah, I won't go on, so don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help. And yeah, let's get going. So I've got my head file open. I have just tidied it up a little bit. All I did was put all my stuff and just name it into a group, and just put my ref into a group as well, just so it's all tidied away, so I didn't have loads of transforms and just a big mess in there. So you probably do want to like select all your geo and just like delete all the history on it. You can select on this button or go edit, delete by type history. And that'll clean it out, and it will leave you with some transforms. But I'm not going to fully tidy it yet until the end. But I've just kind of put it all in here to sort of get all the head bits out of the way. So we are going to do the torso, but I do quickly just want to do these eyes first. And what we'll do is it's going to be really quick and easy. It's not going to be long. We're just going to make some geo for them, and you can actually see here where it's slightly lit. So I'm looking at here. Let's say with all of this sort of stuff, you'll always do extra stuff to sort of tighten it up. But let's just select. So let's see if I can use transform component to push that out. So we're not changing it, we're just, well, we are slightly changing it, but let's make it a little bit thicker. So we're on 0. You can see the difference with it now. So it's just a tiny bit more thickness on it. So we did it by 0.434. And let's do the same on here. And we could chop it in half and just duplicate it over, but for the sake of something like this, it's fairly quick and easy. Transform component. And it was on 0.434. 0.434. Cool. So we brought those up a little bit thicker. So now if you press 3, it's got a little bit more. Anyway, so let's not mess around. Let's just delete the history. So I'm just going to make some spheres first, and if I just turn my share wireframe sheet, I should be able to find the middle. Just going to rotate this around 90 degrees. And effectively all I'm doing is just going to make a cup for it to hide behind. So I know it's looking a bit funny right now, but don't worry about that. So let's get this in the center. Let's change our orientation to object. Cool. So all I'm doing is I'm just making a light catcher for it effectively. Nothing too complicated, just so it's just in there. I can delete that. Then I'll just do mesh display and reverse. Then we'll texture that in a way that you won't be able to see any of that. If you press 3, hopefully double check that you've not got any intersections, otherwise it will show through on the renders, so we can actually make this bigger. And because it's curved, it might slightly poke through if you're not careful. So what I will do is, so it won't take very long, but we're going to go to deform and add a quick lattice on this. I'm just going to select the lattice points on the front. I can just pull it back and hide it in here. We just want to make sure that we've got no sort of light leaks. But we need to add, sorry, let's go to form, add a lattice, and we need to add one more in the middle. So we don't need all those. We can do 3. Oh, pressing the wrong button. 3. Cool. So let's just do that again. We will get onto this doing the torso, I promise. But we may as well just tidy this off whilst we're cool. I think it should be alright, and we'll just delete the history, and I think it just needs to move slightly across. Sort of faffing around this. I just want to make sure that it's covering all bases. And it's not going through. Cool. So we will just call this eye socket. Cool. And if we just go, we can create a torus. Create polygon torus. Let's just select the eye socket, then the torus. And we can go to rigging, constraint, point, orient. So now we know that's at the correct. That's right in the center of there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So I'm just going to go to my orthographic front. Bring back my reference. Hide that. And I'm just going to try and match it. It's obviously it's glowing, so it won't be as big, but we can give it a good guesstimation. So we are in object. Just like, because this probably obviously moves quite freely around in there. We don't need 20 subdivisions, I don't think, but we can bring this back up and scale it down. And we can see it's quite far. It's not a huge distance, but... And we can sort of figure out how this looks afterwards, but what we want to do now is we'll just group this. And hopefully if we Control D, flip it in the X, it should match. So now we've got our rough placement of eyes. And let's just double check nothing's, let's press 3 on that so it's nice and smooth. Cool. So we've got our eyes. And they could be, we can rig those up somewhere in the eye sockets. Cool. So it's 10 minutes in and we haven't even started a torso. But we'll call this eyes. Had to tidy that up though. So cool. Don't forget to save that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna save it myself. Cool. So let's do this body. We're finally getting onto it. So let's bring back our rest of our ref. Torso. And let's go to our orthographic front. And let's just bring back our reference again. Sorry, I keep hiding it and getting rid of it. Cool. So what we can do is, if we go to shading and turn on our wireframe, we've obviously got this sort of door bit here. And we can do this as a little bit of a different way. Last time we just modeled around it and we painstakingly used quad draw and make live. But we can do it a much simpler way that we've used in other tutorials. It's purely the reason why we did that is because there was like a little bit more complexity in here, and we probably could have guessed it on a plane. So might have been able to just model it all on a flat plane with the right subdivisions and use a bend. But that's what we'll do for this bit, just because it's a little bit simpler. And let's get rid of this ref. Let's move shade all. Cool. So that's pretty much a standard polygon, standard cylinder size. So if I just make a cylinder, let's put that on reference and scale this up. Let's turn our wireframe on shaded back on. Cool. So I was just checking that was exactly the same. So now we know that we've got subdivisions of 20. And the reason why I'm doing this is we're going to make a plane. We're going to do this a slightly simpler way. So I'm going to make a plane. And just going to pull this out to the front. Going to make it 1 by 1. So we can figure out the math for this, but I'm just going to go to my measure tools and hold V. Snap to here. And I know the distance between it is basically 5.2. We can copy that exactly. Let's just double check. It should be the same for all of them. Yeah. So let's go to our plane. Let's change our width to the exact number there. 5.20. 7745. 7745. Cool, and it's kind of rounded it up to that. Cool. So now we have that. That's the exact width of that. So I'm just going to rotate this around 90 degrees. So I don't actually need that anymore. And what I can do is select my vertex, hold V and snap to the bottom, hold V and snap to the top here. Cool. So I am going to delete history and freeze the transforms. Perfect. And what I'm going to do first is hold V and snap it to this point. Then just Control D. And because, let's hide my reference. Why aren't you hiding? You're not in there. Okay. Cool. 5. So it's the width, basically. I don't even know why I needed to check that, but it's 5.208. And we could duplicate this 19 times just by going like this and snapping. It's not the best way. We can just use so what's the hold? I'll just copy this value. So just Control C. I can delete that. Then I edit, duplicate special. I'm just going to Control V that in the X. I want it to rotate. The number of copies I want is 19. Duplicate special. So now let's duplicate it 19 times. And that's the exact same amount of times on our sphere. So we know that's going to be the correct subdivision for the round. So I'm just going to go back to my modeling, mesh, combine. If I select the vertices, I need to go edit and merge. So let's just press 3, double check it's all there. It is. So I'm just going to go to my orthographic front, bring back my ref, and bring that back. I'm just going to snap this to the center. Let's just modify and center the pivot just to double check, and it is. So we're centered in the middle. Now if I hide my reference, my wireframe on, just the wireframe, sorry, I can sort of see now, I can create this shape, although it's probably, if I look at the ref, it is indented, I think. So it's kind of an inset. So I know that I'm going to have to go round here. So I've got the right subdivisions, but I don't think I've got enough. So I'm actually going to duplicate that. If I delete the history from that, it doesn't actually have all that history and transforms on it. I'm just going to go mesh smooth. It's just going to double up the subdivisions. Just because it might help with the corner parts. So I'm just going to go to modeling, multi-cut, and I can see that there's the top here. And I can see there's the bottom here. I wouldn't be surprised if this is fairly uniform. And we're going to assume that this is kind of all in that part as well. So now we need to figure out these curved sort of corners. So obviously we just can't. Well, we could do something like this. And in fact, no, let's. So even though I am still going to. No, that's right. So I'm just going to do it this way. So I've measured out. It's hard to tell. They look like. Doesn't look like very sharp corners. It looks like they're sharp on the bottom than they are on the top. So I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not got a supporting, because you can tell the difference between, because like you can tell there's possibly a supporting edge here. Possibly not a supporting edge up here, or it just might be the curve of the front of it. But this possibly could all be done in texturing. You don't know. This could just be a normal map. So I'm just going to, because this looks like it's more elongated on the top than it is on the bottom. I don't know if that's by design or by mistake, but we will just go with it. Cool. So if I'm using these as markers. So I am actually still going to use my quad draw because I can just mess around with this, or I can just draw those corners on. And for me, that's just always, it's always easier. So and we're only doing it on a flat plane, so let's do half. Because effectively we want, that's not the best. It's really hard to tell where this curve is. It's like somewhere in the middle, but we don't have to be exact. It would be nice to be exact, but we can just do what we can with what we got. So at the moment I'm just building out this corner. That's obviously not very good. I'm just trying to make this as nicely spaced as possible. We can tidy up because we're working in just the front view. It's quite easy to tidy this up. But the tidier we keep it now, the easier it will be. It's really hard to tell how curved this is. This looks like that's not curved enough. You can stick it in smooth preview if you want to, if it makes it easier. I'm just working on a reasonable curve. You might not want to spend as much time on stuff like this, but I kind of get a bit fixated on it. I'm just worrying about that, just getting that curve. That's all that matters to me. So I can just, what I'll do is just, flatten these out, and snap it to that one, because that's where the curve is. Do the same here, because we want to make sure we're working in, we're making it, this is flat basically. Sorry, I was warbling then. Ooh. Cool, so let's try and sort this edge out so it's nice and clean. Probably could have just done a 90-degree turn and just beveled it. Don't know why I didn't, but here we are. Cool, so we've done that corner. It's probably a little bit tighter, but I think that should be okay. You know what, I'm actually going to snap it to here. And I just want to make sure that actually I'm going to add another multi-cut roughly here, just so I can snap these into place. Just feel a little bit more comfortable with it aligned properly. Cool, so let's now fix this. And I think that should be all right. Cool. So I'm just going to now Control D. Let's center the pivot. And I am just going to flip it on the Y and sort of roughly bring it down to where I think it should be. Obviously, we're kind of in the middle here, so we want to actually be in the... We'll be making a hole in the center of this. So we do actually want to make sure that this is a bit more uniform. We'll do the same for this bit up here. Cool, so I'm just going to... 25 minutes and we haven't done really much, but hopefully it should be a lot quicker. Just going to mesh, combine, select the edges and just go to bridge. Cool. So now we kind of just want to bring this into a sort of a correct amount of geometry. So we can actually delete those, multi-cut, and put one in the middle. Cool. We can do that here. No, let's not do that there. Why is this off? Cool. And we sort of made that sort of shape. I was not happy with that curve. Probably would have been easier just to do a 90-degree. But anyway. Cool. So what I want to do is now is actually get that in the center and delete it. And now I need to sort of effectively do what I did before. And let's sort of find a home for all these bits. So let's turn that live, quad draw. And some of this should be pretty easy. And this will be a bit on top, so we can try and reuse that. So probably tidy it up afterwards, but we'll get the basic sort of shape in there. Don't worry about this, we'll tidy it all up in a sec. We just want to so we definitely want to make sure that we're getting it. Got quite a lot of geometry because this is where it's going to be bending on this sort of curve bit. You can actually bring that up so that's actually straight. Probably makes more sense to put that edge there instead of doing it there. Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. So when we do this sort of like a bend wrap, we need to make sure that our geometry is fairly uniform as well. So obviously we've got some bits that aren't really uniform here. So we're going to have to probably add some more subdivisions. You can see we have sort of almost got half of it now. Like I said, this is not, you can do this lots of different ways. It just means that I can keep this sort of edge loop here and make that in there nicely. Cool. So the thing is with this now, we kind of, if we're bending it in a certain way, it's not such a big problem that if we've got bits going across. The problem is when we have thinner polygons here than thick ones. So we almost kind of have to match to our thinnest one at least. So when it does round out, it doesn't do crazy weird stuff. And it probably will do crazy weird stuff here. So we need to sort of figure out how we can actually now fix this. Because it doesn't matter so much on the height because we're not adding anything extra. We need to make sure that we keep a fairly equal amount for the bend, basically. So what I will do is I'm going to make another. I will make another plane. To make a plane. Just going to rotate that 90 degrees, and like I say, I always use geo. You can use other things. I like to use geo as sort of guides because we're in the orthographic. It doesn't matter so much. And I'm just going to scale that to this. The right size. In fact, no, I won't. What I'll do is duplicate this. I'll call this template, just so I know that's what I want. And I'll just do another mesh smooth so it subdivides it again. And now I kind of know where I want to sort of guide my sort of effectively my edges, so it keeps it nice and round. And I'll just make that live. I'm just going to tidy up all of this. I'm just going to snap it. Ooh, let's turn make live off. Just going to snap it here. And this will just mean that you'll bend. When we finally do this bend, it'll just be so much cleaner. You won't have any sort of weird things going on in it. So we can't probably accommodate for every little bit, but we can try. So we need another. because we can just duplicate this up, so we can just focus on the bottom part that needs fixing. We don't need to fix both of them at the same time. So I am going to add another. I actually need to stick an edge loop in there, so that is following it around a bit tighter, because that's where our bevel is going to be. Anyway. Let's just bring this down. It's looking a bit messy at the moment, but we do ideally need to get these in the sort of a relatively decent place. It's not so problematic with the top. It's just mostly where we're going to be bending, basically. So it bends uniformly. Let's scale that. I've kind of... Let's see if we can tidy this up. I swear I seem to be making a mess. But a lot of modelling is problem solving. You're not going to always know what you need to do straight away. So, as annoying as it probably is to watch me mess up a lot, it happens. I shouldn't worry about it. Don't worry. Even you see all these people do these speed runs and stuff like that, and they're doing it. They're doing things wrong as well. So don't worry about it. Things take time. And this is now taken 40 minutes, which I did not want it to take 40 minutes. Just trying to be as meticulous as I can with this geo. So I get this. So the edge I'm looking at is this one here. So I want this edge, and these are my sort of pivoting edges. So I'm not looking at this one, I'm just trying to make sure that this one, so if ignore this. This is going to be where it's going to, all the stuff's going to be happening. Cool. So let's just get that edge. Control E. Ooh, vertex face. And let's go edit mesh, merge to center. Let's straighten this out because it looks a bit wonky. Now let's not worry about that up there. Ooh. Cool, we got this sort of curve. Could have done this again. Like I say, not everything goes to plan. I try and make it go to plan, but it doesn't always go to plan. Anyway. So what I will do is actually just delete that. Don't need it. I'm just going to look at some of these edges and see what's going on here. Seem to be... So let's make sure that these are, because you're not going to get all of them perfect, but we can get most of them pretty close. That one there's going to be our inner bit, so let's not worry too much about that. I've got some extra. So we have created extra subdivisions here, but hopefully it should be okay because that's going to be chopped out anyway. And we're going to be replacing that with the actual sort of front bit. Cool. So I'm not going to do that. That's silly to just do that. I'm going to select all that, delete that, and delete that, and that. Let's snap this down to there. Just going to go mesh, mesh and combine. And no, I've got that edge loop there that we haven't attached. Although it probably mattered, but we could probably just delete it. So let's go mesh, combine, and where are we? So we'll just, for the ease, we'll just go merge to center, because we can straighten all these out afterwards. Merge to center is pretty much guarantees you. Sometimes it is annoying and it doesn't do it for us. If you just do merge. Cool. So we've got pretty even subdivision here, apart from here where it's the opening. I'm not worried about that at all. Let's just even this out. See, it's not mesh, match center. I don't know if my keyboard's being a little bit funny. It's not doing it. It probably is just my keyboard. But anyway, so we've got that shape. And this is still taking much longer than I wanted. So let's Control D. Flip that into Y. Just snap that to there. Snap that on there. Cool. So now we've got two halves, and like you say, you can do this with mirroring and stuff, but I'm really not that fussed. I'm going to go mesh and combine. Let's select all the vertices and hopefully edit mesh and merge should. So now if I press 3, it's nicely merged. Although I don't like this. What's that there? Constantly adjusting this, but that's just how I do things. Probably have to do that down to the bottom. Yeah, it's good to try and be as tidy as possible. So I'm just going to hold V, snap that to the end, Control D, and -1 in the X, and just flip it over. Cool. So we've got that. I'm just going to delete the transforms and history, and I'm just going to go mesh combine. And that is wrong because that is not the center. We seem to have accidentally deleted more than we wanted. Okay, so don't forget we subdivided this, so it's not going to line up with that. It's going to line up with this one here. So instead of... I haven't made a mess, sorry. So we need all that, so I'm just going to duplicate it and delete that. Hold V, duplicate it, hold V, and hopefully this should fit. T and V. Slightly, oh, let's turn it off, that's what might be it. Yeah, cool. So yeah, as much as I try and do things quick, it's still taking 46 minutes. It's because I'm talking over it. So let's go to combine, and let's go to our vertex and go mesh tool, edit mesh, and merge. So now we press 3, it should all be not merging together. Let's select these and go edit mesh, merge. Let's just bring up the threshold. Cool. Press G again, bring up the threshold. Cool. So now that's done. We've finally done this very basic chess piece. Once you've done this once, you'll be able to like blast through it and you'll understand what I'm doing. It's mostly getting these iterations correct. So I'm just going to freeze transforms and center it. So when you center it, if you've done it right, it should be bang in the middle, and you can see it's an equal amount. So the simplest thing for us to do now is, if we go perspective, what we'll do is add a bend deformer. So I'm going to freeze it, delete the history and center it. And if you just go to deform, and you've got your non-linear deformers, and what you want is a bend. So nothing will happen yet, but you'll have this sort of transform bend handle. And if we go to our attribute editor and go bend, we can see if we change our curvature, it's bending it, but it's not bending it in the way we want. So we do want a curvature of 180. It's just our orientation is a bit wrong. So what we'll do is change this to -90. And you can see where we're going with this now. So if we change this to 90 now, because we've created this with the equal amount, it should fit nicely. And yeah, we've done that sort of chess piece. If we go to our orthographic front and bring back our ref, it's pretty close. And we just need to sort of adjust the height. But before we do that, we'll just delete the history, so now it's baked the bend in. Just go back to our shading, smooth shade. And we need to make sure we weld these at the back. So mesh tool, edit mesh, sorry, and merge. Cool. So that should be merged now. Cool. And now we've got this nice little edge loop that goes all the way around. We don't have to make this as a separate piece. We can actually create this as a one piece now. Apart from we probably could have put that in as one piece in the same piece as well, but it's just we can just put a cylinder in there, to be honest. And we've already been at 49 minutes. So let's now select our edge loop that we wanted for the doorway. And it does look like it comes out a bit. So what I'll probably do is, if we bevel this, quite a small bevel. 0.1. Then we can extrude that in. So if we smooth it now, it kind of looks like that. And it's, to be honest, it's not far off that. It's probably needs to be a bit tighter. So zero point 0.05. Just bring that in. Now let's select these edge loops and we can bevel this. It's quite rounded, so it'll be so you definitely don't see as much as we see here. I feel like we still need to be a bit tighter. I guess this is probably a good thing about if you do ever do procedural modeling stuff. So what we can do is select this, hold Shift, transform component. Should be able to scale it all in the same direction like this. So now if we look around, it should be or not. Let's just go back and make you can make this in two pieces if you really want. What we can do is offset a very tiny amount, even smaller. Cool, and now you can sort of see, it's quite hard to see, but we can now probably trying to think, would it be better just to keep it as it comes out a little bit, I think. Maybe it's even the gap is a little bit too small now. Let's get stuck. I think what we'll do is actually make that separate. So I'm going to call it for now And we'll do this in the next one, I think. So we'll do the door. Just going to undo all that. And we'll do it so it's a bit nicer. I think we're trying to get it when we're not getting what we want. But yeah, so hopefully if you've enjoyed that tutorial, I know it's a long one. We haven't really done a lot, but we've done the basic body shape and got it round and not been messing around as much as we did with this one. And it's starting to take some sort of form. And we've played with some other tools. So yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed that. I know it's been long again. Obviously, if you know this, you don't have to. This is like all these are sort of aimed towards someone that's not done stuff like this and it's discovering new tools. But yeah, so if you've enjoyed this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.